YouTube, I am Shaggy, I am Philalitea, and I've decided that I don't feel like standing at the bus stop today, and so even though my hips and my knees hurt real bad, I've decided to take the only slightly longer walk, and as far as amount of time it will actually take me round trip, slightly longer walk, maybe 15 minutes longer, maybe even less, if the bus does like it really should and stops almost every stop to make up for being early at nearly every stop. But that's not what today's video is about. Today's video is about how much I love to listen to NFL general managers, past and present, currently employed and otherwise, talk, but especially talk football, of course. But I love to listen to them talk about their jobs and the job they used to do if they were former, and if they're former, the job that other GMs are doing right now. I love to hear them contextualize the perspective, the point of view, and the mindset, the way you have to think in order to be an NFL GM. I love listening to that. And today's not going to be all about praising Rich Eisen for cultivating a relationship with Joe Banner, former New York Jets general manager, because I like Joe Banner and I like to listen to Joe Banner speak. But today's not really about the Eagles. Joe Banner used to work with the Eagles back with Daniel Jeremiah, in fact, when Daniel Jeremiah was a scout for the Eagles. I think Joe Banner was also a scout. I think they might actually be close friends from college. I could be wrong about that. That's how those relationships work. It's strange to me that I haven't made any similar relationships. But that's whatever. And I do mean the last 3 months. Going on 5 months now. But I don't have to pause that every time I don't really know what I'm thinking about. I got about 50 minutes, depending on how quickly I walk. And so I'm gonna talk, and I'm gonna post this to YouTube while I'm talking to my therapist, and then I'm not gonna get any views or comments for 5 or 10 months. So we'll see how life goes. I'm not even worried about it. But I do want to talk about general managers a little bit, and I would highly recommend that you, whether you have any particular interest in the NFL or not, definitely listen to NFL general managers. And there's a reason I would recommend that. First of all, when you do that, I would highly recommend that if you do not already have the skill set of comparing one thing to another thing by listening to another thing, but thinking about one thing, I would highly recommend that you take the opportunity to watch something that you're not interested in at all and find interest in it by comparing it to something that you are interested in and looking for how they're the same. Because see, your move of comparison for division's sake, to see how things are different so you can know which things you like and which things to reject, seeking out the chaff, so to speak, from the wheat, is why you have so little wheat. It's why you make so little bread. It's why your bread is so uninteresting. You end up with so little good meal, having ground up the very little that you're able to sort through and know already that you like. I'm thinking about bread because, oh man, I have delicious, incredible, beautiful, wonderful artisanal breads in my tent, and they are meals in their own right. Meals that I am happy to not even, ooh. We got black ice in this parking lot. If I weren't paying attention, I might have just took a spill right in the middle of the damn, what is that? Is that a Lowe's? Hey, look at that. Oh, I'm getting pretty good with this camera. That's funny to me. I'm gonna light this cigarette eventually, but I also might not. I don't know if I'm actually allowed to smoke on. Nobody's complained yet. Woo. But if you were walking right here alongside me, and I assume that you would be about I assume that the top of your head would be about cheek level. You were walking here, that's about 5'10". If you were walking here along beside me, we're just walking and chit-chatting, I would be smoking this fucking cigarette, so you just have to fucking cope. I don't care. And so, I would highly recommend that you listen to people talk about things that are outside your specific areas of expertise or even your particular interests. And rather than look for only the most perfect kernels of information and otherwise just seeking ways to ignore what you're hearing, right? Just take it all in, but filter it through something you're more interested in. Now you might have to work a little bit at that, and now I do have to pause you. The rules of politeness, which really do mean over communicating your intention and your actions so the people around you don't have to guess. It's such a part of my personality, I even do it in situations where it's completely unnecessary. There's no one on the other end of this camera. It's recording. I'm not even live. A nicotine breakfast, baby. Did this so many times in my adult life. So anyway, I got a lot of things I'm trying to say all at once, and I would highly recommend that you watch the NFL and you think about something that you're interested in. But I would highly recommend thinking about it from this perspective, the perspective of your job. Because NFL is a job. You got to remember that the National Football League, for everybody but the owners, is a job. Even the commissioner is an employee, is an employee. He's got 32 bosses. 32 very powerful, very ornery bosses. And so I'm listening to Rich Eisen talk to Joe Banner. And what I like about Joe Banner is that when Joe Banner gets on TV and he starts talking, he's talking to the person that's interviewing him or that he's talking to, because that's just how sports talk goes. You don't talk, you don't monologue, you don't solilogize like I do. You don't demand the stage and the spotlight and say, I'm gonna talk, motherfuckers. I'm talking. Nobody does that. Not on TV, not real people. They don't have to, they're invited. But what I like is that he doesn't pat himself on the back for making predictions. He goes, you can too, and I'll teach you how. He goes, I'll teach you how you can see everything I see. Because I'm no fucking genius. So that's what you get. That's what everybody in every field gets wrong about these, trying to get these boy wonders or these girl wonders. Look at Dragon Age. Look at the shit show that is Dragon Age. Fuck. And maybe it's my bias because now I just don't give a fuck about AAA gaming anymore because I can't play, so I just don't look. And that's the thing so many people get wrong. Is like, if you can't participate, don't look, because you're gonna have thoughts, and then you're gonna want to share those thoughts. And the people who are busy, they don't give a fuck. Players don't give a fuck what you or I think, right? ESPN doesn't give a fuck what you or I think. I keep thinking about, like, why is ESPN so negative? Like, Pat McAfee is constantly dragging ESPN for being so negative, for shitting on the players and shitting on good teams all the time. Like, why did they spend the first 12 weeks of the season shitting on the Eagles, even though they'd lost, like, one game that whole time, right? It's because you watch, and because you can't participate, you're just going to take big shits wherever you can so that people know that you were there. That's why I just delete comments that piss me off. All you're doing is going, Mikey was here. Well, fuck Mikey, erase. Mikey was never here. And Rich opens by Rich opens this interview with Joe Banner by telling you that he predicted these Chiefs' success in 2019 or 2020. He predicted that not only were they going to win a Super Bowl, he said not only were they going to be back to the Super Bowl, they were going to win multiple. This team was too good. The general manager was too good. The head coach is too good, and they're too young. And they've got all their money allocated in the right places. And so I'm listening to him talk, and then I'm listening to Rich introduce him with this, and I'm like, yeah, right. I mean, everybody who's a thinking person could see that the Chiefs are going to be very good for a very long time. The Chiefs are going to be good for the next 15 years. Chiefs are going to be very good for a very long time. They've got the quarterback. The quarterback is willing to take money under the table so that the salary cap doesn't take a massive hit. They've got a good offensive line. And how do you have selfish receivers when you've got Pat Mahomes? They'll just sit the bench. How do you have selfish receivers when you got Andy Reid, the most pass-happy play caller in maybe the history of the NFL? That guy would throw away games to throw the ball. Literally just give games away. And so Rich introduces him, Joe Banner, with all this prediction. And basically what he says is, how do you feel about that prediction? And he goes, well, right now, 5 years into that prediction where I said they're going to be good for 10 or 15 or maybe even 20 years, and they're going to win multiple. Yeah, they've won multiple, but he goes, as far as it stretching out like that, he didn't say these words, but contextually stretching it out like that, he goes, well, their general manager hasn't stopped doing smart things. And I heard that and I said, I got to start talking. Because that's a brilliant idiom. And it's a perfect metric. It's a perfect metric for predicting future success. He hasn't stopped doing smart things. I keep telling you, when I was a child, I had to figure out for myself the difference in smart and stupid because stupid kids got snatched and killed. It was up to me to figure out the difference. Because I was just abandoned in this world effectively. Brought in unwanted. And left to fend for myself because my siblings were more important. I'm gonna pull up right up into that crosswalk, pal. And something that I figured out for myself is that smart people do smart things. And stupid people are people who, as a trait, as a personality, do stupid things. Stupid things, what you do, identify you. And so he says, I feel real good about that prediction because their general manager hasn't stopped doing smart things. And that translates into every field. You want to know whether because they're all the time talking about, sports media guys, are all the time talking. They always want to ask the question. They want to get into the conversation of how do you, a free agent, because I told you yesterday, are the ultimate free agent. Well, how do you, a free agent, pick the team that's going to win? How do you know if you're an owner, an investor? How do you know that where you're spending your money, that the way you're allocating your money is the appropriate way to do it? But what I wanted to talk about is you as an employee. Because see, I get the feeling that most of you who come across my channel, most of you are comfortably employed, but you're not really responsible for very much. And if you are, you got your manager job, you got your responsibility job, not by the merit of your responsibility, but for some other reason. And we both know that. And so I think I'm at a point where I got to start doing something. I got to start moving toward the next thing. And so the next thing's got to be some kind of consistent call to action. And that call to action is going to have to be a call to join me in a set of behaviors, which is called the Spirit in cult. And now that doesn't have to be religious, but I define cult as human behavior, any group human behavior. And so there's going to come a time very soon where I'm going to have to call you to leave your job. Call you to leave your church. Call you to leave your D&D group. And if not leave, stand up in the middle of it. Stand up in the middle of your group chat. Stand up in the middle of your Twitter and say, enough is enough. We need real leaders. We need real conversations. We need real art. And if I'm going to be a demagogue, I'm going to be telling you how you can too. How you can see what I see. How you can make the predictions that I make. How you can make accurate, long-term choices for yourself that benefit you and the people around you. Because, man, I watch YouTube from before COVID, and everybody ended every episode with a, hey, we've got a Patreon, hit me up. They stopped doing that during COVID as a courtesy, and you have taken advantage of us. Look around. Look around. The small scale independent creator landscape and tell me that what you don't see is product placement everywhere. You gonna pull right up into the crosswalk? You're gonna race me to the right turn, that's for sure. So when I managed for many years. I started as a trainer and as a leader in a corporate landscape in 2005. I saw the paycheck that my manager made compared to what I made, and I said, 2 years? That ain't that long. I can do anything for 2 years. So I stacked up about 3 years of leadership experience, was promoted from within. Oh, I'm trying to think of who just got a job, who was just promoted. Oh, like damn Marty Schottenheimer's boy. Like damn Schottenheimer. Brian, is that his name? I was hired from within in a toxic organization that was doomed to close and has underwent a couple of identity changes after they let me go and then ultimately closed. And so I got promoted to an actual front of house manager gig for about 3 months before because that environment was so toxic, before they just decided to move on from me and then change the entire front of house structure. That's why they moved on from me, because it was too easy. I made it look too easy, so they had to change it all up so that it was so that the owners could still struggle. That was what that was about. They were weird. Alcoholics are weird. They don't actually want to succeed. They want to be seen struggling, so they get in over their heads. I'm talking about the Colts now. And so anyway, I got my manager title, front of house manager, slapped that on my resume, and just started working. Started working for what I was worth as a front of house manager, and I did that from 2010 until I started managing gas stations in 2016. I took all of 2015 off because I made enough money in 2014. I was able to move to Ohio and refused to work for a year. I do sabbatical, baby. I know how to live. I had no debt. Before 2017. I was entirely debt-free that entire time. That's not true. I had $700 in old credit card debt that bank wouldn't let me pay back. Because I was young. I didn't know that it went to collections and I wasn't paying the collections. But I ended up paid that off on a lien. And that's something else, like when it comes to me getting a job, is like basically as soon as I get a job, all of my income is going to be leaned to cover this debt that I accrued for this woman. Because I was living so well, I was like, fuck it. I survived to 30. I never intended to survive to 30. Let's get a credit card and let's spend it buying her random gifts, doing an actual 12 days of Christmas for her. Because why the fuck not? Buy her a Christmas tree. Why the fuck not? Buy her random clothes, underwear. Why the fuck not? That's what other boys do. And then it turns out that's actually not what other boys do. So I was treating her too well. So she was throwing the pussy at everybody but me. Because that's how that goes. Girls, that's why guys don't treat you well anymore. I'm going to tell you right now. Christine de Pizan talks about girls behaving this way. In the 1300s. I'm getting a call from the hospital telling me that I am supposed to be at I'm supposed to be at therapy and probably already, right now, probably actually, maybe 3 to 5 minutes, and I'm still 15 to 20 away. So they'll be all right. And I'm not taking that call because it's going to end my recording and I can't stitch these together, and I'm not doing a part 1, part 2 because you won't fucking watch. And I'm shaggying the fuck out of this, and I like that. The Shaggy Dog story, for those who don't know, 22 minutes into this, is one that drags on and on and on and on and on and really doesn't ever tell the story. It's one that you have to keep coming back to. It was an old holdover of the bard tradition in taverns. And so basically it was just your best storyteller in the tavern. You feed him drinks, ask him to tell a story, and then interrupt it, and he interrupts himself by being drunk. You interrupt him by feeding him drinks, and he interrupts himself by being drunk. It's very funny, and I love the tradition. They're very funny stories. And knowing, because you get used to the idea that, oh, okay, I'm not actually going to learn anything. I'm just here to be here with him and have him in my life, right? Have the sounds of the road or whatever, the background sound of being in public, just hanging out, whatever. And so I'm listening to Joe Banner talk about rosters and roster construction and where you spend your money and how much human beings cost for their services. And if you listen to these people talk, you can take the Marxist feminist approach and you can say, oh, it's so dehumanizing to hear a human being talk about other human beings like this. But here's the thing. That guy's job is to evaluate human beings like that, is to organize human beings into a winning roster like that. And what that means is that his pay is attached to his success at that. The better he is at that, the better he can leverage to get paid. Because what you don't understand is that your pay agreement isn't fucking charity. It's not charity. Your boss, I didn't understand this for a long time. Long time. I thought that your general manager and your position coach, so to speak, were supposed to offer you pay raises if you were profitable. Say, hey, quarterly evaluations, whatever. You made us this amount of money, we're going to reward you with this. No, that's not, nobody's job is to do that. Your job is to gather up all that information, walk in, slap it on somebody's desk and say, hey, I am underpaid. And if you don't do that and you expect to be better paid, yeah, you're going to live a shitty life. You're going to be pissed off all the time because you're not paid adequately. Well, you are paid adequately. You are paid exactly what you were willing to do the job for. Any less and you'll go find somebody else, and any more and you won't do the job. You'll slack off. You'll pull an Albert Hainsworth and you think you're too good for the job. Why do I know that? Because a crew position, an entry-level crew position at the last gas station I worked at was $9.25 minimum wage. Because my general manager at the time could not handle a shift that was not overstaffed, she was desperate to bring people in, so she hired entry-level crew positions at $13. I was making $12.50 as a manager, $12.50. In fact, first assistant, which meant that I was next in line for a general manager position. So she hired people who were making 50 cents more than me. And you know what they mostly did? Fuck all. You know what they knew how to do? Fuck all. They were too well paid. They made too much money to spend even a single minute in a training class because they had to be on the floor. Well, look at the NFL. Look at the state of the NFL. Those guys make too much money to play preseason games. They don't make enough money. They cost too much. They cost too much to present for the networks and for the teams, and so the ticket prices for the fans are way too high to fill the stadiums. So they're a net loss. And so what I'm telling you is that all these employees, because she needed charity, she was doing charity in the community to get bodies in there because she couldn't do her job properly, meant the company was losing money, which meant that my shifts, which were making money, couldn't afford to adequately staff, which means that we started having a theft problem. A theft and a dirty problem. People coming in and being dirty because they knew they were unattended, so fuck it, I'm gonna shit in the floor. Because that's the kind of attention-seeking behaviors people do when a public business is understaffed. Look at the world post-COVID. All of these businesses are hand-to-mouth. They can barely afford to keep their doors open. So what do? They understaff. What happens? Theft increases. What happens? Everything goes under lock and key, and you have to hire more people. Because you can't afford to hire more people, you have customers come in, stand around, go out without buying anything. You start losing money hand over fist. What happens? Businesses start closing 4 to 5 to 6 years down the line, because that's how long you can stretch out a big business loan. But we're talking about big businesses. But big businesses are going out of business. And it's not because of our boycotts. It's actually because of our shitty practices when we spend money on their products. And so my approach My approach as a manager is because I'd already worked my way up and I'd done all of the training seminars and I knew how to do your job better than you did. Is if you, well, yeah. So, and I wasn't in a training position. When I'm a manager, not a trainer. Trainers get paid way better than managers in the normal corporate structure. Raising Cane's, suck my dick. Training position is not the step under the managers, it's the step over the managers, between manager and district manager, you dicks. You cannot have people with no actual responsibility training people. Why? They have no responsibility. If the person wasn't trained properly, well, the trainer isn't a manager. They have no responsibility for that person's success. The manager has to retrain them. And just because you got a manager on shift doesn't mean that they're taking responsibility for, just gave you a trainer on shift doesn't mean that they're taking responsibility for doing the training. Why? Because they're under the manager. So if the manager isn't managing the culture and making sure that people are doing what they're supposed to be, the trainer can't fucking change anything about it. Now, if the trainer is above the store manager, but below the district manager, when the trainer walks into the fucking building, everybody acts right. Why? Because they know better. And that person can fire people. Yes, the fear of losing your job is the only reason you even do a halfway adequate job. And that's why the best teams underpay everyone. And the best owners make up the difference under the table. And salary bonuses and I just dropped this bag that has $100 million in it. If anybody finds it, it's theirs. Okay, bye, Patrick Mahomes. Have a good day. Maybe you'll find that bag of money I just dropped at your feet. Cash, baby! Cash! Wireless transfers directly into somebody's account with the little note, gift. I don't know how y'all fucking don't know this. Man, I have been living a cashless poor person's existence for the last 7 years. How the fuck do you think I bought all that weed before it was legal? How do you think I bought my weed? I sure as fuck wasn't going up to some asshole I didn't know going, here's a bunch of cash for weed. Please don't put me in jail. No. Hey, thanks for picking up my groceries and dropping them at my house. Here's $75. Yeah, you know what my groceries are? Broccoli. Right. It's discretion, y'all. It's about discretion. That's what I'm talking about this whole time. Discretion. Using your discretion and the people that you listen to and what you take away from the people you listen to, what you listen for. Listening at all. Having listening skills, developing listening skills. I'm advocating for all of these things. But man, Joe Banner's saying they haven't stopped doing smart things. Is an optimist's way, or a politically correct way of saying they haven't started doing stupid things. Because see, stupid is that proverbial snowball rolling downhill, right? Not proverbial. What was that? What did I just say? Stupid is a shit running down a shit slope. Stupid is the ultimate slippery slope. Once you start making decisions that are bad for you, it becomes very difficult, nigh on impossible to stop. Because you have to double down. You have to double down and you have to insist, oh, that wasn't stupid. So like, I love it and I agree with him. That's why I love it. Every time Rich Eisen brings up the Giants owner having to watch Saquon Barkley just tear through this NFL season for a division rival. Once you start making stupid choices, it's hard to stop. Because now they can't take and draft somebody at the running back position with a top 5 overall pick. but they're in a position where they kind of are forced to. Even though they need the quarterback, they're in the exact same position. And so now if they change their behavior, it's admitting that every decision they made leading up to and after that for a decade was a bad choice. And that's the one thing that people who believe they're successful don't want to do, is admit that they've made bad choices. And see, that's the thing that you don't know about me, because you only watch whatever. I don't know what the fuck you see, and I don't know what the fuck you hear, but you don't hear me talk about the bad choices I've made, the mistakes I've made. You just don't see that. But I'm nearing my destination. I am getting hungry, which is good. And I need to make 20 bucks today. I made about 10 yesterday. The app that I've been using to grind video games is ripping me off, not giving me all of my points. So I moved to another one, and it has higher payouts but longer time scale. You gotta really play the fuck out of these games, or you gotta pay. And so if I really want to make good money off this, I got to invest back in it, which means I got to have a little bit of spending nest egg, which means that I need Patreon subs, and I need y'all to hit up my Cash App, my Venmo, my PayPal. I've made all of those convenient for me to use now because I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been living with my phone as my primary credit card for 10 years. It just took some doing without an address. Took some getting used to because things have changed since the last time I handled money was at the end of 2020. I've lived in severe domestic abuse until September. But what I'm telling you succinctly here at the end is that if you want to evaluate me, I would really love to know when you think I started making stupid choices that were bad for me. Stupid is self-harm. When did I start doing self-harm in my story? I know when I started doing self-harm in my story. I started doing self-harm in my story when I moved in with that woman. I started doing self-harm in my story on my 31st. No. 2016. 33rd birth. No, that can't be right either. How fucking old am I? 2016 is my 29th. Yeah, so my 30th birthday. On my 30th birthday, I had just moved myself and my girlfriend, the woman that I had moved to Ohio to be with. 2017 is correct. Just moved her and me into our own apartment on my birthday, and she spent the day fucking another dude, and I knew that I didn't kick her out of my life in that exact moment is when I started doing self-harm. Everything I've done after that has actually been really smart.